Major development in the Middle East. Israeli forces have killed the head of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar. Sinwar was the architect of the October 7th horrific terror attack. Taking him out was one of the main goals of Israel's war with Hamas. He was believed to be hiding deep inside Gaza's tunnels. But 24 hours ago, an Israeli military drone looking for suspects after a firefight spotted Sinwar on the third floor of a residential building, sitting in the midst of the rubble. Shortly after that, a sniper took him out. It wasn't until this morning that he was identified as the chief of Hamas, first by sight and then by DNA. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed Israelis today, saying, "As we have promised to do, we've settled the score." In Tel Aviv tonight, Israelis celebrated the death of an enemy, but there are new concerns over the fate of those hostages, including Americans still being held in Gaza. What impact will this have on the multiple fronts of this war? And what is President Biden's message for Israel tonight? Former Defense Department official Mick Mulroy is standing by, but we begin with Tom Soufi Burridge from Tel Aviv.
Tonight, this Israeli military drone capturing the final moments of Israel's most wanted terrorist, the mastermind of the October 7th terror attack, Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. This graphic image showing his dead body after he was killed by Israeli forces. It was IDF reservists, not special ops, who came across Sinwar by chance during a routine operation in Rafah yesterday, flying that drone into a building after a gun battle, spotting an armed man sitting in a chair, his face covered, his hand bleeding after being shot. The man throwing an object at the drone, soldiers soon after killing him. But at this point, they still didn't know it was Sinwar. In fact, it wasn't until today when a separate unit checking the building found his body and recognized it was the Hamas leader, confirming his identity through DNA, dental records and fingerprints. Tonight, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying Sinwar's death brings the end of the war closer, but it's not over yet. President Biden today speaking with Netanyahu from Air Force One, congratulating him on Sinwar's assassination. The two leaders agreeing this is an opportunity to secure the release of the hostages, vowing to work together.
He had a lot of blood in his hands. American blood, Israeli blood, and others.
US officials telling us Sinwar was the main roadblock in the latest ceasefire and hostage negotiations. Across Israel today, cheers, but also fear.
Well, they're chanting enough. The hope amongst these families and friends of the hostages is that the death of Yahya Sinwar could open the door for the end of the war in Gaza and a deal to get their loved ones home.
Family members of the remaining hostages, including Americans, taking to the streets, now more concerned than ever.
I'm not shedding one single tear for the life of him, but now there's no central leadership. So the hostages are now left to the mercy of the local captor, which is much more dangerous for them.
Killing Sinwar has been one of the main goals of Israel's war with Hamas. Sinwar in hiding for more than a year and seen here in a Gaza tunnel in video released by the IDF in February. Today, the IDF posting 3 words: eliminated Yahya Sinwar. Vice President Harris today saying justice has been served.
Sinwar was the mastermind of October 7, the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust.
And saying this about his killing:
The United States, Israel, and the entire world are better off as a result.
And tonight, Sinwar's assassination dealing a major blow to Hamas amid the threat of wider escalation in this region.
That's something that has concerned people for weeks now. Tom Soufi Burridge joins us now live. And Tom, talk about the impact of this assassination for the security of the entire region.
It really matters, Lindsay, because, you know, the war in Lebanon, those rocket attacks from Hezbollah, which sparked the war, which Israel says it needs to stop, I mean, that's directly linked to the war in Gaza. Now, you know, Yahya Sinwar was the leader of Hamas. You know, he's basically been directing Hamas operations. He's been in hiding. He's evaded capture for the best part of a year. The IDF had as one of its key war aims to take him out. Now they've killed him. It matters. You know, it still raises important questions about what comes next, but it might just open the door a little bit more to the possibility that the war could end and that there could be a deal to get more of the hostages, including Americans, home. Look, Yahya Sinwar has been a long-term nemesis of Israel, and we've taken a longer look now, take a watch of who he was and why his death matters.
He's accused of masterminding the most deadly terror attack in Israeli history. A well-orchestrated and brutal operation.
This offensive is the mission of his life. This is a jihad.
Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas in Gaza, Israel's most wanted terrorist. For Israelis, Sinwar was the face of and brain behind the most heinous crimes.
You know, he has murder eyes. He's very, very smart. He's not a psychopath.
When you're trying to find the seeds of this brutality of October the 7th, you must understand not only the ideology, but also the personality of Yahya Sinwar.
While for Palestinians who chanted his name in the streets, he was a symbol of resistance to Israeli oppression.
He's a leader. He has a charisma.
Yahya Sinwar grew up in a refugee camp. His parents reportedly displaced during Israel's War of Independence. Hamas, or Islamic Resistance Movement, designated a terrorist organization by many Western nations, was founded by the paraplegic imam, dressed all in white, Sheikh Ahmed Yassin. Sinwar, close to Yassin, was put in charge of Hamas's brutal internal security arm, the Majd, earning himself the nickname, the Butcher of Khan Yunis.
He was one of the commanders of the military wing, and especially of the unit which called Majd, which was focused on finding and executing collaborators.
In 1989, an Israeli court sentenced Sinwar to 4 life sentences for his role in killing suspected Palestinian informers and plotting to murder 2 Israeli soldiers. He spent the next 22 years in Israeli jails, including at Nafcha prison in the Negev desert.
In the years he spent inside this prison, Sinwar's ruthless reputation evolved. According to one of his interrogators, he killed fellow inmates he accused of being collaborators with Israel, and he issued orders to other Hamas leaders.
So I asked him during the interrogation, why you are not married? How come you are Arabic, you are 29? He told me, the Hamas is my wife, the Hamas is my mother, the Hamas is my father.
So these are your notes from when you were working?
Sinwar's interrogator was Micha Kubi, an officer in Israeli internal security Shin Bet, who still has some of his notes from hours of interrogation.
Look, I interrogate with Yahya Sinwar at least 150 to 180 hours. He was very tough.
And he says in those long conversations, Sinwar didn't hide his brutal methods.
He killed 12 people by his hand.
Did he almost boast to you that he killed those people? And did he even tell you?
No, I can describe how did he kill them? With machete. He preferred to kill.
Machete?
With machete, of course. That's the reason people of Gaza Strip called him, you know, the Butcher of Khan Yunis.
But that image of Sinwar isn't shared by one of his former fellow Palestinian inmates.
Did people in the prison fear him?
مش خوف بس في كمان رهبة إله.
Ismat Mansour was locked up with Sinwar for 15 years.
He speaks Hebrew very well. He loves to know everything about the Israeli army, the Israeli intelligence, the Israeli security.
He knows his enemy very well.
Yeah, very well.
And Tom, you've spent a long time reporting on Sinwar. What impact do you think that this will have specifically for Hamas's operations?
Well, I mean, look, it does matter. I mean, you cut off the head of the snake, but the organization will still go on. I mean, Hamas is not finished. There's no question about that. The Israeli Prime Minister tonight, Benjamin Netanyahu, is still saying that that is the goal, to take out Hamas, to degrade them to the point where they basically don't play a role in Gaza in the future. He's appealing to people in Gaza to give information to Israel, to get the hostages home, to abandon Hamas. I don't think there's any sign that that's going to happen in the near term. Hamas is still fighting. There's still fierce fighting up in northern Gaza. The IDF has launched a really, really big operation there. It's causing absolute misery for the civilian population in that area who are desperate for aid. So look, it could change the picture on the ground, but we don't know who's going to replace Yahya Sinwar. Israel has killed its leaders in the past. They've been replaced, and the organization has continued to be an arch enemy for the Israeli state. Linsey?
All right, Tom Soufi Burridge for us, reporting from Tel Aviv once again tonight. Tom, thank you.